Hi friends, welcome back to Azure Content YouTube channel. This is part 18 in SQL Real-Time Scenarios playlist. In this video, we are going to learn how to pivot the table in SQL by dynamically taking the column names. So let's see the requirement in details. In the previous video, we have done the pivoting of this table called sales table, and we have come up with this output where we have converted the distinct values present in month name column into different column names, right? So earlier we had hard coded this value, that is Jan, Feb, and March. These are the three distinct values present in the month name column, and we had hard coded this value to achieve the desired output by pivoting the table. But now in this video, we want to dynamically generate the column names present in the sales table, which means we don't want to hardcode the column names that we want to get in the output table. We want to have those column names generated dynamically. So which means if my sales table is having only three distinct values in the month name columns, which is Jan, Feb, and March, then I will get this kind of output. And suppose if I insert new values, say suppose if I insert April, May, and December data as well, then it should be dynamically able to fetch all those new column names as well from the sales table, and it should be able to perform the pivoting. And also, as we are not going to hard code the columns, so we also want to order the column names, which means we want to order the month name dynamically in ascending order. So now let's go to SSMS and start writing our SQL query. So we have the table name as sales table, right? So let me select the data from sales table. So this is the data that is currently present in the sales table. And if you remember in the previous video, we had also explicitly added this column, ID column, and we had understand how to pivot the table by using only the desired column names. Okay. So instead of select star from sales table, we had explicitly given the column names in a subquery, and then we had performed pivot. So you can go through the previous video in details to understand how to pivot the data. So the query that we had used in order to pivot the data was select star from sales and then pivot. We used pivot operator to sum up all the sales amount. I'm not going to explain this query because we have already seen it in the video number 17. So please go through that in details. And on top of which column we are performing it, we are going to perform it for month name column so that we will get these uh, distinct values as column names in the output table. Okay, so for month name in, so what we did is we had hard coded this value as Jan and then Feb and then March. Okay, and we named it as pivot table. So this is our query, but we also have to be mindful that we have ID column as well now. So instead of giving select star from sales, what we did is we had created a subquery here. So select star from, and then again select, and then column names, which we explicitly want to declare from sales table, which is employee ID, month name, and sales amount. We don't want to add ID column here. So let me give employee ID column and then month name, let me give comma here, and month name and sales amount. Okay, so select these columns from sales, and then I'm going to name this query as maybe subquery. Now we don't want the table name here because we have already given the table name inside the subquery here. Okay, so this was our query to pivot the data. Okay, so instead of caps, let me give in a camel casing. So yeah, now this is our pivot query. Now what I want is, I don't want to hard code this column names. If suppose I have another month in the sales table where we have the sales data of say April month for employee ID 1, 2, and 3, then I don't want to go and add April here. And similarly, if I have the data till December, then I don't want to explicitly hard code the column names here. So I want to generate this list of columns dynamically. So for that, we will write the dynamic SQL query. Okay, so for that, let me first make this query as a variable. Okay, so what I mean by that is, let me declare a variable, say SQL, and we will run this query by using the stored procedure called sp underscore execute SQL. So we have already seen how to make use of that stored procedure in previous videos. So for that, I am declaring a variable called SQL with nvarchar max data type, and I am going to store this query inside a variable. And now we want to change this hard-coded values, that is the column list, into the values coming from sales table dynamically. So whatever are the distinct column names coming from sales table should be dynamically generated here. So for that, we will use some variable and we will replace these values with that variable. So again, we have to declare a variable. So let me do that. Let me declare a variable called, say, column list, and I'll give the data type as varchar max. The reason why I used nvarchar here is because the execute SQL stored procedure does not work with varchar. So it will give this error saying that it will only work with nvarchar. So that's the reason we are using nvarchar instead of varchar here. But in the column list, we don't require that. So I'm just using varchar. And here in the column list, what we need is, we need to generate the list of columns like this. So which means the columns coming from sales table should be actually converted into this format. So as we have discussed in part 16 of this playlist, we can use string aggregate function if you want to convert the multiple rows value into single string in a SQL table. So to frame this column list in this format, we will use a string aggregate function. So let me use that string underscore aggregate function on top of which column? On the top of month name column. Okay, so let me do that from month name column. And what will be the delimiter here? We have to provide delimiter in the second argument. So our delimiter needs to be comma. So it should be comma separated values coming from sales table. So this is coming from sales table. So now if you see, it is giving error saying incorrect syntax from. Okay, so we cannot directly use from by directly declaring the variable, and we cannot assign something which is not just a string. If it is coming from a table, we need to use select here. Okay, so we cannot directly use even select like this. It will again say that it is incorrect syntax. So what we can do is, let me go to next line and say select, and then since we have to store this value which is coming from the sales table like this, we will further manipulate it, but we have to store this value into this variable. So for that, what I will do is, let me use this variable and let me give select at the rate this variable name equals to this value. So now it will work. Okay, so if I just execute this, it will work. Okay, we can print it as well. So if I use print at the rate column list, then it will work here. Okay, so you can see it is printing out the value. But if I would have used set statement here, it will again give the same error. Okay, so if you come across with this kind of requirement, then you can use select instead of directly trying to put the value in the variable using declare or using set. Instead of that, you can use select statement. Okay, so you can see we are able to assign the value coming out of sales table by using string aggregate function and select statement, and we are able to assign it into a variable. Okay, so we don't want all of these data, right, because it is redundant data, but we want only the distinct values. So for that, we have to use distinct keyword, right? So what we will do is, we will not directly take the data from sales table. We will use distinct on top of the month name column, and from there we will try to use string aggregate on top of the month name. So what I mean by that is, we will use another subquery here. Okay, so instead of directly taking it from the table, we will use select distinct month name from sales. So this is the subquery. So I have to give a name to this. So maybe I will give the name as again subquery. Okay. So if I run this now, so you can see it is able to aggregate the data as well as it is also able to get the distinct month name. So that's what we want. We want to have the data in this manner here, right? But there are two things. One is we do not have the quotes here, which means we do not have the brackets. So for adding these square brackets, we have something called quote name in SQL. So we can make use of quote name here on top of the month name. Okay, so if I run this now, if you will be able to see that quotes will be added on top of these column names. You can see that we have added the brackets using this quote name function. So now instead of hard coding this value, I can go ahead and use this column list variable here and we would be able to fetch the data. But there is a catch. If you see, the order of this data is Feb, Jan and March. But in hard coded values we have Jan, Feb and March, and that's how we want the data to be coming in the pivot table. So we want it to sort by the month name, not by the alphabetically ordering it. Okay, so we will come to that. So for now, let me remove this and let me add the column list variable here. So since we have to add it here, so we will end this string value here and then plus and add this again plus, and then we will start the string here and end it here. Okay, so if I run the whole query now, so you can see I got the same pivot table, but the only differences are column names are not sorted as it was sorted while we were doing the hard coding of column names. So what we can do is, if you remember in part 16, we had used string aggregate to aggregate the data from multiple rows into a single string, but also we used something called within group, order by within group. So within the group of string aggregated data, which we fetched here in the column list, so within this group, if we want to sort the data, we can use within group clause. Okay, so we will make use of within group here so that we can order within the group of the output coming out of the string aggregate function. Okay, so what we need to pass here is order by and what column names we want to order by. But if I give the month name here, okay, if I give month name and if I try to run this query, you can see it is still having the same data. It has not sorted the column names by the chronological order. It is still giving me the same result because it is ordering the month name by alphabetical order. So which means F will come before Jan and similarly J will come before M. So it is coming like Feb, Jan and March. So what we need to do is we have to order by using some date functions so that it will sort by the ascending order of month name. So for that, what we will do is we want to take out the month number out of the month name and then sort the data according to the month number. So what we will do is, suppose if I select month name from sales table, so it is coming like Jan, Feb, March and so on. Okay, let me take distinct month name. Okay, so this is our data which we want to sort according to the month name in the calendar. So we want Jan, Feb and March in this output. Okay, so for that what I will do is I will use something called datepart function. Okay, in datepart, if I give, suppose if I give say maybe I'll give Jan 01 2025 and let me cast this value as date time. Okay, let me cast it by date time. So now if I run this, it is saying date part requires two arguments. Okay, so we want to fetch out the month out of the date that we are passing here. So we could also get year, we could also get date. Okay, so you can see we are getting the month numbers. So you can see we are getting the month number. So don't get confused. We are hard coding the values here instead of taking it from the table. So it is only giving one for January. Okay. So let me, instead of January, let me pass it from the month name from the table. Okay. So month name, and then let me concatenate it with 01/2025, just as a sample date. I am taking 01/2025. You can take any of the date, but we are concerned with the month number. So I am taking the month name from sales. And now if we run this, it should be coming accordingly to our month present in the table. So you can see it is giving 2 for February and 1 for January, and similarly 3 for March. Okay. So now if I order it by this column, so let me give column name as month number. Okay, MN. So let me give as MN, and then let me use order by clause to order by this new column. Okay. And if I execute it, you can see Jan is coming first, and then Feb, and then March. So this is what we want, so that our data in pivot table should be sorted by chronological order. Okay. So let me use this same datepart function. Okay. So here I'm just copying till this point, and instead of order by month name, I'm going to give the whole query here. So now let me make it readable. Okay, so now this is our query. So if I run this now, let's try to execute, and now you can see the results. It is giving Jan, Feb, and March. Okay, so this is what we wanted. So now if I want to insert some records in sales table for the month of April and May and suppose December, so I already have the insert query ready. Let me get that. Okay, so I have this insert queries to insert for all the employees, employee 1, employee 2, and employee 3. So let me run this for the month of April, May, and December. So you can see in total 9 rows have been affected. And if you see the sales data now, so you can see there are some records for April month, May month, and December month. Don't worry about ID column. We are not taking it into consideration. We have already taken only 3 columns into consideration for converting into pivot table. So no worries about these null records. Okay, so now if I run this whole query, we should be getting the data for April, May, and December month as well. And we are also expecting it to be sorted as per the month name in ascending order. Okay, so now you can see the data is coming for Jan, Feb, March, and then April, May, and December is coming at the last. So this is what we wanted to achieve, and this is our expected result as we wanted. In this PPT, you can see this is our expected result, and that is what we achieved it using this particular dynamic query in SQL. So I hope it made sense. If you have any queries, please use the comment section below in the video. So that's it for this video, guys. I hope it was helpful. Please hit on like button and please subscribe to my channel if you haven't done it yet. Thank you.